Okay, so welcome to Commercial Real Estate, Pivotal Partners in Retail Leasing. I have a great panel today, and I'm glad everyone is able to join us either live here now or listen to the link for replay later. My name is Heather Ewing. I'm the founder and president of Abstract Commercial Real Estate in downtown Madison, Wisconsin, and I have a great lineup today, and I'm really excited to share them. What we'll do is give a real brief introduction, and then that way you can put the name to the face for our panel, and then we'll go through, and each of us will give 5, 6, 7 minutes and share a little bit more about our function within the role. And it'll help you to understand what each of us do and how we might be able to assist you in various ways on different projects, or maybe even someone that you know. So starting out with myself, as I said, Heather Ewing, Abstract Commercial Real Estate. I am the founder and president. We're a small retail boutique real estate firm here in Madison. We're extremely niched. It's retail exclusively, along with Dane County. So we do work with tenants, landlords, developers, new mixed-use developments, standalone properties, strip centers. And the nice thing about that is we're full circle, fully integrated, as you'll learn as we go. And then what I'll do is I'll pass it off to Carol for her intro.
Hi, I'm Carol Schaefer. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for 3D & Associates. We are a general contractor based out of Reedsburg, Wisconsin. We just opened our Madison office downtown in the West Washington 122 building. And we do an extensive amount of work in the retail space and hospitality. So excited to be here today. I've got 16 years experience in the construction and real estate development world, from running a commercial real estate nonprofit to being a consultant on the municipal entitlements process. So can help in that space, but excited to be able to talk to you all today.
Thanks, Carol. All right, Elise.
All right, I'm Elise Smithback. I am a first vice president of business banking at Park Bank. I primarily work with business clients with commercial real estate loans, C&I lending, and also do a variety of projects to help people get into spaces that Heather helps them find. So I'm excited to share some knowledge today with our great team. And I've been in banking for over 20 years. So it's got a lot of experience and helped a lot of different kind of businesses. Thanks.
Definitely. Ross.
Hi, everyone. Ross Hagenbottom with M3 Insurance. I'm a commercial account executive focusing on the real estate side. M3 is one of the largest privately held insurance agencies in the country, and actually the largest in Wisconsin. So my role is to help ensure your risk, point you to your risk management strategies, and then make sure that everything's aligned.
Excellent. Danielle.
Hi, my name is Danielle St. Marie Thompson. I am partner and co-founder of St. Marie Bull LLC, which is a small law firm in Madison. I have been practicing law for over 20 years and focus and specialize in the commercial real estate arena. My background experience is in law firms, mid-sized law firms, and in-house counsel with a larger utility in the state. I also personally invest in commercial real estate, which has been beneficial because I've been able to see transactions from both sides. The types of projects that I'm involved in would be representing landlords and tenants from the leasing side, as well as purchase and sales. I will also assist businesses in the purchase and sale that involves commercial real estate. So a lot of different pieces and parts together. But I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about how the legal side plays into the commercial real estate side and how I work with this team of people to make the real estate transaction very seamless.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our crowd that has joined us and continues to join. So what we're going to do is, again, like I said, have a few minutes for each of the pivotal partners within this panel to explain more of what they do. And the goal for today is really for you to understand the importance of creating a strong team for your retail lease deal. Over the years, I've seen, of course, good deals, and I've experienced some that people have painfully lost a lot of money in by not having the expertise of a retail broker and, of course, the accompanying group. So We will have questions at the end. Feel free to write them down, or if you have that burning question, you're more than welcome to jump in. As I say, it's a discussion, not a dissertation. So we really want to add value, educate you, connect you. And even if it's something that you have a question we're not able to answer today, we're happy to get back to you. Additionally, this is the first of many panels that we're going to have in bringing value to you. So today is retail leasing. We'll also have sales, investment sales, and that's where you get to join in of any suggestions for a particular topic. We'd love to hear it and put the panel together. So keep that in mind as we do go. As I start out with abstract commercial real estate, as I said, we're a boutique retail firm located here in the heart of the downtown Madison, and we're a full service brokerage. So what we help is with site selection, the leasing, of course, connecting you with the right contractors, lenders, commercial insurance, and of course, the commercial real estate attorney. It's really important to find the right partners because it's a large investment. We work with local, regional, and national. And if you don't have the correct team assembled, one, you're going to lose out on a lot of money. There's various ways to structure deals, and retail is a very specific niche. It's not office, it's not industrial, it's not other sectors. So you want to make sure that you find someone that is specialized. What I always say is, do you go to your foot doctor for your eye problem? Not very good, right? So yes, they're both doctors, but you need to have the niched experience. So that is my plug for that. Also within this, we work with both tenants, landlords, and developers. I've worked with a lot of different developers such as T-Wall, Fleming Development, Lockery, Howden, and there's others. And again, this is all within Dane County. So having been here over 40 years, I know the little idiosyncrasies of the area in addition to the demographics. And that's where it's not uncommon that I will join with other master brokers for larger developers outside of the state because we bring that local hands-on expertise and knowledge. Additionally, what I like to say is that we really do provide that backbone for deals. So there's a lot of moving pieces and parts that are running concurrently, and it's really helping people to understand the process and then to funnel out and connect with those resources such as this panel at the appropriate times. So working with nationals, regionals, locals, each of them are at a different level of expertise. So it's understanding their needs, their desires, their motivations, and what needs to happen, right? It's truly listening and delivering on what they need. So that's something that I think will speak to the heart of this entire panel. Additionally, a lot of times people don't know how we get paid. They're asking if it's upfront, if there's a retainer. Typically in commercial real estate, all brokers, both the tenant broker and the landlord broker, are paid by the owner. So that commission check is split between both sides. And of course, representation is on each side. So one of the final aspects that I'd like to add about abstract is that we're truly creative, both in the deal process and also what would it take to get the right deal done for you. One deal that I always like to bring up, for example, was the Mint Mark deal. And I think this illustrates it beautifully. In that particular deal, I represented both sides. And a day before closing, the DNR said that they were concerned we have to postpone closing because they didn't know if it was a dry cleaning location. Of course, as any broker, any of you know, that it's just like, why is this coming up now, correct? Anyways, through a little diligence and really digging in and getting creative, I ended up going to the Historic Museum in downtown Madison, and I learned how to use microfiche. So I am a child of the 70s. Can't say I was ever big on microfiche. I was more into sports than the library. And through that, we found this tiny little article that showed the space was a dry cleaning office. it did not process the clothing, thus it did not process chemicals. That is a win, folks. So that's a perfect example and summation of how abstract can help you. It's being creative, it's being dedicated, and listening to what you need and delivering on that, both through the retail brokerage and then also with these pivotal partners. So with that, I would like to tee up Ms. Carol Schaefer of Freedy and let her share about the integration of construction and GC with the retail brokerage component. You're on mute.
It's only been a year that I've been doing this. You know, you would think at this point I've kind of got the mute thing down, but no. But anyway, thanks again. So Freedy and Associates, we've been around for 75 years. It's a fourth generation construction company. So we've got an awful lot of experience. And as I mentioned before, we've been in the retail and hospitality space extensively. And we are a full service firm, and we do design, build, general contracting, pre-construction, renovations, restorations, and construction management services. So we run the gamut. And also we're somewhat unique in how we can help in that we both, one of our owners, Scott Truel, and I come from the background of economic development. So I've spent a lot of time. He was actually a city council member. I was working with plan commissions and city councils as a consultant for 15 years. So we can really help our clients, because when you're coming in, you're really great at what you do. You are, you're selling pants, or you're doing nails, or you're a hardware store, but that's what you do. And the process of putting together your space can be somewhat intimidating if you've never been through that before. And so as a design build firm, we can come in with you, and it's an idea on the back of the napkin. And the sooner you bring in your construction partner, the more streamlined that process will go, because we can help you. A building is actually built twice. It's in the mind of the client and the designer. And then from there, you have to turn that into, how does this work with our budget? How does this work with what's allowed for the permitting? How does this work with that? And then you turn that into your actual drawings and specs, and then it actually gets constructed. So the sooner you can bring us in, 90% of our work is the design build, where we're brought in. And if you have an architect that you really love, we'll work with them. If you don't, we have extensive partners that have worked with us on different projects, so we can pair you with that right design partner and make it a very seamless, smooth process. So like I say, we're there from the back of the napkin to the cutting of the ribbon. And as Heather mentioned, it's really the sooner you put your team together, the better it is for the whole process, because then we can work together and hit those problems before it's a lot easier to fix a problem in the beginning than it is if you're already got a wall knocked down or you're trying to do the construction. So you want to try and get ahead of all of those things. So you want to find a contractor that has then that relevant scope and experience. And when you're talking about putting together the right team, part of it too is, are they collaborative? Are they willing to work together? And is it someone that you want to work with? Are there someone that you have fun with? Because quite frankly, you're going to be spending a lot of time with this team, and this is a huge outlay for you. So, that is something that's really important. And then also matching up what your vision is with what the budget is and the timing and the scope. So those are some of the questions you ask your contractors. How do you manage your schedules? How do you supervise this project? How do we work with you? And what is your type of communication that you're going to have with us? Who's my point person on this? And, so the sooner you can get somebody in, the better for you in terms of making it as smooth and seamless as possible. So I'm happy to get a little bit more into the weeds on things, but generally speaking, we start working with our clients as soon as possible. And one of our taglines is, we do weird well, because we've had some really unique projects. I mean, right now I'm working with somebody on trying to find a place for a cricket farm. So it's no joke. Take that very seriously. But we're here to be your partner and your ally and help make this happen. So.
Perfect. And tying on to that real quick as well, I have worked with Freedy in the past, and Carol, amazing team. And that's where it truly is a joint connection. And as the retail broker, I am at those different construction meetings, one, to really understand what the client or the landlord needs, depending on who or both I'm representing. And that does bring it to a more efficient pace, the collaboration, and like Carol mentioned, it's much more clear, which is going to save them time and energy. And everyone in brokerage, and probably related to it, knows the all familiar saying of time kills deals. It's true. So Carol, thank you. That was perfect. Elise.
Awesome. Thank you. So real quick, I told you a little bit about me, but our bank, Park Bank, is a Dane County bank, and probably 95% of our projects are all in Dane County. So we're very familiar with the area, much like Heather said. So helping businesses in Dane County is really our niche and what we like to do. So with that, I would say, again, I'm going to echo what Carol and Heather said, is finding your key people. It's one of the first questions I ask my clients when we talk about lending and talking about their project is, who's helping you with brokerage? What contractor are you working with? Who is your attorney? Things like that. I can't stress enough how important that is to have a good team. So again, just echoing off of what they said there. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what we look for with lending and kind of how you can prepare to talk to a lender about your project. So one of the first things that you can do on how to prepare for a loan is having a business plan. So if you're a new restaurant, or if you're a new gym, coffee shop, anything like that, one of the first things we're going to ask you for is a business plan. And if you don't have one, there are plenty of sources out there to do one. You can Google it. Another favorite of mine is using SCORE here in Madison. SCORE is a free service, and basically it's a retired folks who have been in the business community or business industry and who knows what, they're from all over, and they help with their expertise. They help you create a business plan. They help you do projections, things like that. And those really matter when it comes to lending, because we want to know how you're going to operate your business. And we are going to really want to see your projections and how you're going to make money, which is in turn going to pay back our loan. So I can't stress enough how important a business plan is for a business that's first starting out. For a business that's well established, we probably don't need to look at a full-blown business plan, but looking at projections for the next 3 years. Typically, if you're looking at leasing a space or moving to that next level, we'll see, and taking on additional debt to do a build out, to do tenant improvement work, furniture, things like that. We, again, want to know how we're going to get our loan paid back. So showing us how by providing you these funds, you're going to increase business and increase your cash flow to pay our loan back. Things to have on hand when you're talking to a lender are your business and personal tax returns. We typically require 2 to 3 years. Another document that we will ask for is a personal financial statement. That's just listing your assets and your liabilities. You can Google that. You can ask your lender for a form. I know I have a form that I can send my clients that they can easily fill out, but you're not going to talk to a bank or another one around here who will not require a personal financial statement. And like I said, a pro forma is very, it's a key piece to looking at that loan request and how we're going to have that loan repaid. And then, as you can imagine, when we're underwriting the requests, we're looking at coming back down to the basics, the 5 C's of credit. We're looking at your cash flow and capacity, your ability to repay. We're looking at the collateral. What are you offering to secure that debt by? Banks are always looking for how we're going to get repaid. And if we don't get repaid, what collateral is there to then turn into funds to repay that loan back? So collateral can be furniture, it can be equipment, it can be a personal residence, all sorts of different things. And there's several different ways that you can get creative on providing some collateral. Capital, PFS, how many assets do you have behind you? Again, that's another form of repayment that we can look at. Character, that goes by your willingness to repay, your stable employment history, your integrity, things like that. So having good character is a good step. And then just the conditions, the market analysis, the trends in the industry, what that all looks like. Another piece of information we're going to need is the lease. So and having a trusted attorney to review that lease with you really, really helps. We typically, when we look at lending, we typically match the term of the lease to the term of the loan. So if you're looking at, if you have a 10-year lease and you're like, hey, I've got $500,000 of equipment to buy, we can most likely amortize that over the full term of the lease. If your lease is only 5 years, we're not going to want to amortize something for longer when that lease is, because we don't know if you're going to be there in 5 years or if you're going to move on to a new location. And then what do you need financed? Do you need a build out? Do you need furniture? Do you need equipment? A lot of landlords offer what's called TI credit. So that's working with maybe Heather or someone or Carol and saying, hey, what are you going to give me to put my business in here? So if, let's say it's a $500,000 project that landlord is going to offer you $100,000, that's huge. And that's money towards the project. Again, that helps the overall financing and cash flow of things. And then there's several different ways that we can finance build outs and tenant improvement loans and things like that. I would say one of the more popular ones is the Sba Pro 7A program. And that allows business owners to get loans that perhaps traditionally banks would not want to do. So let's say that your build outs may be $1 million and you don't have much collateral to offer, or the collateral that you're offering is just something that the bank isn't very comfortable with. The SBA 7A loan allows you to get a government guarantee. Right now, that government guarantee is 90%, which is huge. And they also will pay the first 3 months of your loan and cover any fees. And that goes on until September of this year. So that is huge. I've got a lot of clients actually now that are refinancing loans that weren't SBA to go into that program because it's just such a great program at this point. But again, those SBA 7A loans really, really help first-time business owners and existing business owners expand. So we can talk more about that offline if you'd like. And then there's just traditional bank financing. And again, that's looking at what your down payment ability is, how long we can amortize that, what we're going to use as collateral. So yeah, I would say a couple of projects that I've been involved in is Orange Shoe Gym in Sun Prairie. That's a really good example of a gym. They needed to have some build out money. They had some TI money. They needed some build out money and they needed to buy some equipment. So we were able to help them do that. And they, did all those steps, the business plan and looking at all of that. And another one that I'm super proud of and it's so excited is the Wonder State Cafe up on the square. I don't know if anyone has gotten a chance to be there, but that was an awesome SBA project. It was right in the crux of the pandemic. And we worked really hard together and they had a really great team and we were able to get them into a similar SBA program that was just phenomenal at the time. So with that, I will pass it to Danielle.
Perfect.
Did you want to make a question?
Unmute.
Or shall I send
Am I here?
Madison one?
You're live.
Period.
Okay, so thank you guys. I am Danielle Thompson with St. Marie Bull. Just to reiterate from the beginning, our law firm has been around for 5 years and my focus is commercial real estate, which I've been doing for over 20. My business partner focuses on insurance and litigation. So we have a good balance in our office on being able to provide a lot of services for our clients. The team, again, that is kind of the theme of today. The team that you put together really does make the project go successfully. And more than you guys would know, I need everybody in order to do my job successfully or well. Those pieces have to come together because they all become a part of the project. And they're all very time sensitive is another part. I'll expand on how we all tie together a little bit more at the end. But some of the times people are wondering, why do I need an attorney? They're expensive. Is it worth it? And of course, I'm going to say yes, but I highly recommend an attorney on the front end. And here's why. You can save yourself a lot of costs by bringing someone in the beginning that can review and analyze the projects for you in the beginning. You can use an attorney as much as you like. I like to allow some sophisticated business owners like to manage a lot of the process or have a lot of input. That's fine. I can be involved in as much or as little, but I also think it's just so important that I can issue spot. I can help you identify some problems or issues that might be unknown to you that you didn't think of or consider because you're excited to move into your new space. Those are things that I'm going to come in and point out. And it's one of the things that I think is funny is when you look at the statistics in Wisconsin, there's 25,000 lawyers and there's 3,700 lawyers just in Dane County. something that Heather said, you can't go to a foot doctor for eye surgery. That is true with lawyers too. I think people forget. If I guess my saying would be, if you go to someone that says they're a jack of all trades, I would be a little leery and figure that they're going to be a master of none, because it is true. We do have specialties. Attorneys are better at some areas than others. And so my focus is commercial real estate. And I like to stay in that arena because then I feel like I can manage my fees. I can be aware of issues, help projects move quickly, work with the team more quickly by knowing that background. My role in a real estate transaction specifically is to work. I work a lot with brokers like Heather from start to finish, because my role can be beginning to end. And so I do need to understand the business plan that Elise was raising. That's important to them. That's also important to me, because I need to help structure the lease, the timelines, what work needs to be done. Do you have expansion that you need to do in that project? I need to understand that. And I also want to research the property. I want to tour it. A lot of times when that property's been narrowed down, I want to go take a look at it, because the way I draft documents has an impact on what the property looks like. I went through one recently with Heather. There's a lot involved sometimes, and you have to address a lot of things. If you don't see it and people don't take the effort and time to go look at it, I don't think you're always getting the best service either. It's worth a quick visit for an attorney just to go out there too before drafting some of the documents. And then I will draft and review the documents that are related to the transaction. And throughout that process, I'm going to look to identify issues that might obstruct the process. As we go through it, it might be determined that after weighing pros and cons of a particular space, it might be time to pull out and say, this isn't the right spot. Heather, we need a new one. Something's not right here, and to go on and keep searching. That happens at times, or, you might not be in quick enough and somebody else might get it. That happens too. But then I will go back and forth between brokers and landlords, tenants, and work and be a bit of a mediator in the negotiation process of the documents. I have worked downtown Madison since 2001, and I have seen significant changes in the landscape of Madison. You really need to know what you're getting into. There's new, there's old, there's environmental issues, there's water. I mean, we have lakes and contamination, and old and brand new. There's just a lot of things to think about. And so if you look at Willie Street and State Street, those two streets offer so many different things to businesses, tenants, going to insurance, to whatever. You really need to understand what you're buying, leasing, where that project's located. And it's important then to know that based on those buildings that might be old, those leases are going to be triple net. You're going to be responsible for maintenance, taxes, and insurance. When that's the case, what kind of maintenance are you getting into? Is the HVAC old? Is electrical old? Are you in charge of that under your lease? You need someone to look at those provisions and make sure that you are adequately protected, so that if something bad goes wrong when you go to open your business, you're not all of a sudden caught with a significant expense. Sometimes it's easy to overlook a provision too when you try to do a lot of things on your own. You might want to bring in a certain business. Maybe you bring in a coffee shop and you're in a particular location, but you forgot an exclusivity provision. There might be a coffee shop that could open 2 doors down and take half your business. You have to think about your retail space, who's there, who don't you want there. That also needs to be dealt with up front, because you could really, really harm your business if you're not paying attention to some of those little details. I did recently have a client that was in a space that they missed a provision in their lease that had been written years ago, and it had a special termination provision that if they didn't meet a certain gross sales number within 6 months, their lease could be terminated and they had to move. Well, their numbers were under the threshold number. They got 6 months notice to move out of a prime location, move to a lesser prime location, had to do another build out, incur more costs. And ultimately the sad part of the story is that we had to negotiate a lease buyout, and their business ended up going under. And so I know people like to do a lot of things and think they have it, but it is critical that some of these important provisions are at least flagged so that they're addressed throughout the process. Going to the team then. We did hear from a lot of great people today that offer so many great services and are really smart in their industries. And I want to summarize real quick about how we work together, because as I mentioned, I'm only successful if we have a really successful team that pulls the project together. Starting with a broker. I mean, if you're going to look in downtown Madison, you're not going to look to your friend who specializes in properties in Milwaukee and say, because they're my friend, I want to use them to find a space in Madison. You want somebody that's in touch with the rent rates, knows the market, knows when properties are coming on the market quickly, and things happen really fast. And so Heather has that feel for the area. She knows what she's doing, and she's connected with the right people, and she understands where those rates are with different places, what's negotiable, what might not be, where you can, get a little more TI for your projects. She knows that information. She knows the developers and landlords and tenants very well, or properties very well. From a financing perspective, again, yes, time can kill the deal. We need people to be active in going to Elise to talk about their business plans, get their financing in order. So we know what the options are, what they can afford from rent, what they can afford for TI costs, so that when the deal is being created and the LOIs are being submitted, we know that the finances are in order and the project can move forward. And SBA loans in and of themselves can take time. So some of that planning needs to be done. So planning is really important. And then going into the construction portion, projects need to be fit to a customer or client's needs. It's very rare that you're going to walk into a space that's ready to go. That's all set for your business. I mean, that is very rare. So tenants want to look to landlords for money. Landlords want tenants to pay money. How is it amortized over the lease? Who's going to pay? All of that language needs to be tied into the lease through tenant work, landlord work, TI costs. However, you're not going to know those numbers unless you adequately reach out to Carol to say, hey, how much is this going to cost? Take me through the process. I want to do this, that, and the other thing. And can we work that in our budget? And we need to know that up front too. It's all part of the initial lease, and nothing can really get going until the lease is signed and people can start being engaged to start moving forward with the process. And then the most fascinating part that you're going to hear next would be insurance. It's a super sexy topic, but it's always something that needs to be addressed. And it can always be a little bit of a thorn in leases as well, because you have your subrogation provisions, indemnification provisions, your insurance coverage, whose insurance is primary. Did you negotiate it properly? What happens if there's a flood or fire or damage or anything? It is really important that you address those issues up front and you have the right agent in line that is going to be able to not only cater your insurance to what the landlord's requiring, but maybe give you that little bit extra so that you have protections in case something really bad goes wrong. And I have dealt with fires multiple times. I have dealt with floods. I have dealt with these things and leaking roofs and people who didn't insure their property correctly. There's many things from that front that really need to be addressed and handled up front before you get going with the property. It's supposed to be exciting, I guess, is my last point. It's supposed to be an exciting process. So if you have people that understand it, it can be more exciting. So you don't have to worry about every little thing along the way. We talked a little bit of key takeaway. My key takeaway to particularly landlords and tenants is be reasonable and fair. Everybody wants to protect their risk. Everybody needs to understand you go in with risk. You have to vet each other. And so that you can go in, because if you're already arguing about every little provision going into it, it might not be a successful relationship. But you need to know that a 50-page lease isn't always necessary. We don't need to have this extremely long, lengthy, crazily. It should address the key provisions, and people need to go through the process fair and reasonable. And then finally, I would just say, don't cut corners. Bring in the people. It is worth the expense early on, and it will pay off big time down the road. So thank you. I
agree completely, Danielle. Definitely.
If you do have a fire or a flood, we can fix that.
I will pass that number on.
I agree. And so if you're adequately insured, then call Carol.
Exactly. And bringing us to Ross for insurance.
Yes, the ugly stepchild over here is the insurance. So I'm excited to kick it off. Strangely enough, I think I'll tie into the theme of building the right team. So our approach at M3 is it's all about specialization. I think we heard the example of the doctor or the attorney. I always say, I don't want a divorce attorney, representing me if I'm in there for a criminal trial. for us, specialization, insurance is all the same, but it's really different. So every opportunity is a unique circumstance. So our approach is building a team that's hands-on. We want to be integrated. We want to understand your risks because our job is really storytellers. I mean, our job is to take your story, to send it back to the insurance company. So partnering with the right people. So one of the big things we always get is bid it out. Bid it out to multiple insurance companies when really our job is to understand what it is that you need, what it is that you're looking for, and then let's align those. So if we can focus in on that, I think engaging as early and often is the best result. So if you haven't heard a lot about insurance, you probably will start to. We're in probably one of the most difficult markets in the last 15 years. So on the property side, we've had 10 or more $1 billion industry losses across the country. And that's been for 6 consecutive years. And last year's hurricane season, what they're projecting for the upcoming year, it doesn't look like any of that's going to be changing. The other side of that coin is increased cost of construction and labor shortage. So as your prices go out, as you're building, or as it takes to run the business, the insurance does usually follow suit. On the liability side, it's important to work with somebody who understands, what it is that you're doing and your unique business challenges. We've seen more nuclear verdicts. We've seen really, really friendly plaintiff settlements across the country. And that's also helping drive up the costs. And then finally, there's emerging trends too. Cyber liability was something nobody thought about, 5 years ago. And I think in the last, 3 to 6 months, there's probably been huge headlines. I mean, the pipeline was the latest. I mean, we're going to continuously see that more and more. So working with somebody who's going to bring that up instead of just a yes person, that takes the orders, gets the bids, brings you a bid. I think you want to have an open conversation. It's a partnership. It's a dialogue. So with that, my key takeaway would be engage somebody early and often. My job typically is to get in there, ask questions, and then to bring things that maybe you weren't thinking about through the process. So whether that's looking at the lease agreement, let's make sure, a lot of people I think confuse indemnity provisions for insurance provisions. So let's make sure those align. As Danielle said before, the worst thing that could possibly happen is you hand over the lease agreement and you've got insurance companies bickering back and forth about who's covering what and whether it's even a covered cause of loss, right? So those are the conversations we want to avoid completely. And that's from being proactive and then also knowing how to ask the right questions. So when you're working with somebody who's been in there and done it, it's a lot easier to have that dialogue than somebody who's, dabbles here and there. One day they're writing a manufacturing company, the next day they're working on, a chemical plant, and now they want to get interested in the real estate side. So working with somebody that knows how to ask those questions, I think, can help tackle some of those unforeseen losses down the future. I would say too, making sure, of course, that you discuss the budget. That's always important. Insurance now more than ever, it's really important to get out in front of it. It takes a lot longer than it used to. There's a lot more questions. It used to be a lot easier to get a quote and get it out, and it was competitive and there were no questions asked. I think at this point, being on top of it, being early and engaged, and making sure that you're discussing those things proactively can really help drive the process. We've seen deals, almost stall because we get the, being insurance, we're the last to know, but we get the agreement at the end and we say, hey, we really want to be engaged earlier because we want to help you set realistic expectations in the budget. So if you're not having those conversations, if you're new to the conversation, I would say, don't forget about the insurance. Of course, I would say that, but really don't. I think it's a really important component. And my advice would be engage somebody early and often.
Ross, I think that's perfect. And, I think everyone will notice as a takeaway also from the panel at large is really one, go to an expert, right? I think that's been said by everyone within this panel. Also the timing. I think a lot of people, I give them kudos. They want to be independent and Google is all of our friends, but that does not take place of people that have been doing this for years and years. Collectively on this panel, it's 75 plus years. So it's a great group, and really do yourself a favor, if not for your bottom line, but for your sanity and also for the liability. When you are investing in retail leasing, it's a significant cost. I mean, a lot of these leases, even at a minimum, about 500K, $1.5 million to 2 million. So when you hear lease, it's not small change in that sense. On another panel, we will discuss commercial real estate sales. And with that, you'll notice some continuity of this group, but then also we'll add in some others as well to address the sale point. And I think also collaboration. So you've got the expertise, you're starting it at the right time, pulling in the people, and any good broker is going to help you collaborate this team. If they're new, if they're green, they may not have all the pieces together, and they definitely won't have a team assembled. So it's well worth your efforts. And again, for the tenant, and for the representation, you don't pay a cent. So I always say invest in yourself, and that's just good self-care in general. And I want to share one other story, and this is a perfect example. And the other brokers on this will, I'm sure, agree, and it's so sad to hear, but there was a restaurant, I'll leave it unnamed, a few years ago on Monroe Street. You can tell that they did their own deal, or someone was outside of their expertise, and they didn't have the city approvals to have their wood-fired stove in the back. So the business had to close shop, and I'm sure that's a six-figure plus loss on their end. So that's just a simple example of go to the experts and save yourself a lot of headache. But at this time, I do want to open it up for anyone that might have a question, whether it's something specific that you're interested in, if it has to do with Madison, if it has to do with Dane County, or anything else, or if you want to have a shout out. Feel free, I'll let you jump in now. And if not, we'll jump into a few other questions that might be of interest. Oh, we've got a shy group today. What would you say, Carol? I'm going to jump over to you on this because I know you've had a lot of work with the city and things of that nature, which is of immense help. I also help with developers for some of the city approvals and signage and patios and things of that nature. But you definitely, have additional experience in this. And I know I've heard from a lot of developers, both out of state, that Madison's really hard to navigate, right? What would you suggest as a developer that might want to create a mixed use development here or property and lease it out? Any tips on that?
Well, with that, I deal extensively with our clients that come in and say, for example, we had one recently who had an auto body shop and wanted to expand and add another bay. And so came to us, and I'm like, all right, well, we need to check that because that area was rezoned during the last zoning code update, and find out if that is that an allowable use under the existing zoning code, because it may have been in the past, but some of those uses became non-conforming. And so I had to check with the city on that, if it was able to, because he wasn't changing his use, but how much could he expand that shop and still continue to have all of his uses be okay. And that was just one of those, if you just go and start down the road and you haven't checked that sort of thing, you can run into problems. So one of the things I say, if you've got an idea, like I want to do this project here, or I want to expand my business, or I need to build out this space, check with someone, in this case, obviously we have that service, but you want, or check with your broker, you want to find out if that use is allowable, if there's anything in the city zoning code or in the city process that's going to trigger conditional use hearings, or what bodies you're going to have to go in front of, or if you're able to just pull the permit and do it, because depending on what you're trying to do, the extent of it, or the type of project, that can trigger all sorts of permitting issues or zoning issues. So that's just one of those things. Do your due diligence out of the gates, because you can go, if you get too far down the road and find out it's something you can't do in that space, you've wasted a lot of time and resources. So that would be something I recommend highly, is check on those things with the experts.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. And Elise, I wanted to jump to you because I know I've heard a lot of people too of, the concern with retail, especially of, are banks lending on retail? Are they lending on food uses, things of that nature? You hear that they are for other uses, but what would you say, admits where we're at in the transition from COVID to kind of a new normal? What would you say as far as lending on particular food users, restaurants, bars, fast casuals versus other uses?
Yeah, so great question. One of the reasons I brought up the SBA program is because of that right there. We're finding that getting comfortable with restaurants, fast casuals, things that perhaps didn't do, had a hard time during the pandemic, that's where these SBA programs are really the saving grace. So being able to offer a 90% guarantee, having the SBA pay the first 3 months of payments and also waive all of the fees is huge. So I would say that lending is strong to strong borrowers, to people that are doing their due diligence, they're planning, and with the help of the SBA it's good. So
Great. Perfect. And along those lines, Danielle, I know we've worked on some of these on deals we've done together of the transition of COVID to non-COVID, force majeure, people concerned. What if we have another round of the wild? What tips and suggestions do you have on that?
Well, I think I've seen a little bit more of a transition away from landlords being flexible anymore. Early on, they were more flexible to have the discussion. I think now the discussion isn't as open. However, I have seen a little bit more open communication related to force majeure as to maybe a closure or flexibility with, I guess, construction, that with all of the lumber and things like that. There's been a little bit of wiggle room on force majeure, but the COVID restrictions, I think most landlords after kind of June of this year kind of tapering that down. Some of them will be open to it, but what I've noticed more is landlords being a little bit more flexible on rent credit, just to get people up and running, getting them a little bit longer of a break, so that they have some time to address maybe a soft opening with smaller amount of people. I did, however, have, we have a situation that a landlord is coming in and saying, if City of Madison allows 25% capacity or 50% capacity, I will allow 25% rent, 50% rent. I've never heard anyone volunteer that before. That was very unique. However, I do think we're shifting a little bit away from that right now.
And I would agree too, just on the different lease deals I've done and also new listings, I'm noticing that the concessions are narrowing down, and I would say that that finish line is in sight. And that's where, again, I don't anticipate really any deals if you don't make it happen in 2020. It's going to be a very different landscape, or 2021. Wow. Yeah. Point of case right there. So, and Ross, what about yourself with the insurance? Any little tidbits on that for this new landscape?
Yeah, so it has been difficult. I would say, especially with where the market is, if you have a chance to meet underwriters, I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but if your agent can maybe tee you up to see an underwriter and have face-to-face interaction, I think a lot of people will find that insurance isn't, by a computer, it's by people, and it's done by people. So solidify relationships, even though it seems weird and even though it's strange. Build a relationship with your insurance company as well. I think that's just as important as having a good agency, is making sure you have a really good insurance company. So get to meet those people, get to know them. Now more than ever, they want to make sure that you're doing well as a business. So if you can get them invested into you and who you are and buy into what you do, I think that has nothing but a positive outcome.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, that rounds us out to the end of our conversation. I want to thank Carol, Elise, Ross, and Danielle for joining me in this commercial real estate pivotal partners in retail leasing. It's definitely been a joy to share and to have the contributions from each of the panel members. And as I said, if there's a particular topic that people are interested in for another CRE panel, we're happy to assemble that crew and or add people in depending on the topic. And of course, what I will have sent out is a follow-up email to everyone that did attend with the contact information for everyone on the panel. Of course, feel free to reach out to them directly, ask any specific questions. Of course, if you want to start things off with yours truly, I am happy to discuss retail leasing. As you know, I live it, I love it, and it all begins here downtown with abstract commercial real estate. And don't be a stranger. There will be another invite as we assemble the new dates, the panel, and we're all here to be a resource for everyone. So thank you for joining us today, and make it a great week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye.